As always, Shonen Jump has a bunch of new manga that have recently been released, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about them, as well as my feelings regarding the magazine and how we approach and talk about new manga. You might notice, if you do watch the channel, that I talk about Weekly Shonen Jump a lot, though it's mostly focused in specific avenues, its cancelled manga and its history. And usually on both fronts, this means talking about manga that aren't ongoing and have ended years or even decades ago. There's quite a few reasons for this, ranging from me enjoying the subjects I cover to me not wanting to just chase the big new thing for the sake of it. But I, like many Jump fans, do read the entire magazine every single week, which includes all of its new debuts. The new Jump manga are honestly some of the most fun I have every single week, and are things I look forward to a lot in my daily life. For a while, I have actually been making videos on all of Shonen Jump's new manga, smaller ones with a bit less editing, featuring my first impressions over on my Patreon. But after being pretty sick for a while, all three of these new series piled up before I knew it, so I don't just want to make those videos and shove them on the Patreon back to back. Instead, I thought I would pile all three of them here, which include Gonron Egg, the Mage NextDoor, Hero Girl, and Demon Lord Call It Quits, and I'll talk about all of them here. Throughout, I also want to comment on how they might feel in the magazine. Do they reinforce trends or strike out in bold new directions for Jump standards? Do they feel unique among the magazine's cast or have something special that other manga don't? And alongside all of this, I want to talk about our relationship with Shonen Jump and its constant torrent of new manga as well as cancellations. To start off, let's dive into Gonron Egg, created by Shuhei Tanizaki, who seems to be a relatively new mangaka, though they have been working on things since at least 2016 with Kaiju no Kuki Shokunin that ran for 4 chapters in Jump Giga that year. It's a fantasy story about a weaponsmith, and while I feel the artwork of Tanizaki has held a strong fantasy aesthetic over the years, it has changed a lot compared to his next one-shot and Gonron Egg. The next one-shot being Ware wa Ryujin, or I Am the Dragon God, coming out within Jump in 2022, which seems to have been fairly popular, with it even getting a voiced comic on Jump's YouTube channel. A link to that will be in the description if you'd like to check it out. This one feels more in line with what we see in Gonron's Egg. It's a weirder fantasy world, a bit more monstrous, though there are big dragon ladies, which I think is very cool, which sadly Gonron Egg lacks so far, bar this cool, weird demon creature plant lady at the end of chapter 3, but perhaps we'll get more like them in the future. The main character design also looks sick, especially with his helmet. I've seen a lot of people express sadness over the loss of the design here, which I think is pretty understandable. This looks metal as heck. On to Gonron Egg proper. This is a fantasy adventure manga, as well as your typical battle series. Since it stands out a lot, I think commenting on Tanizaki's art style is what I'll do first. It has clearly changed from his last one-shot, with many people pointing out similarities between it and Yoshihiro Togashi's work on Hunter x Hunter, which I'd have to agree with. His line quality reminds me of how Togashi's can be sometimes. It's pretty thick and messy, shapes are more rounded, and the expressions and overall faces feel quite similar to Hunter x Hunter's art overall. Effects like aura spit or the force of someone hitting also feel akin to Togashi's art too. Perhaps then Tanizaki is a fan, or he may have done some assistant work for Togashi, since he has been active now and then throughout the last few years. Gonron's art does shine on its own merits though. Tanizaki is good at drawing expressions, Gonron himself makes a variety of charming faces which endeared me to him, and maybe more impressively is the expressions of Oma, Gonron's titular egg companion. With just an eye, Tanizaki can convey all sorts of things that give this character an interesting edge, which I'll dig into in a bit. I also like his creature design and the armor design of Gonron. The work overall has its own bizarre aesthetic that's fantastical but a bit dark, and in all cases it irradiates a coolness to me. I have heard some complaints about how it's drawn, it lacking consistency, but the way in which Tanizaki simplifies different aspects like Gonron's armor in some panels fills me with admiration. I'm not mad the author hasn't drawn the same one-for-one thing in each page. Smart shortcuts and simplifications of drawings have their own charm and aid greatly in the weekly manga creation process. I should probably explain what Gonron Egg actually is about now, and thankfully it's got a fairly simple premise. The world of Gonron's Egg isn't exactly a straight fantasy one, but a post-apocalypse one that sees the Drakarks, a race of draconic, angelic, eldritch-esque beings, descend from the plane of Gandala. They of course devastate the earth and enslave humanity, reverting progress to a medieval kind of state, using humans to erect new buildings with different architecture that I feel adds a lot to the uniqueness of the series. It's not the most original setup ever, but it's been a while since we've had a setting like this in the magazine. We then are introduced to Gonron, a slave who finds an egg, one which belongs to a Drakark prince who wants Gonron to help him fight back against the Drakark who usurped his father's throne, and to save humanity. This leads to perhaps my favourite aspect of the series, and one I think is a bit under-discussed so far, and it's the relationship between Gonron and Oma. On one level, you have something that's quite sweet between this boy and his egg. Oma feels like somewhere between a mentor and a pet, and Gonron brushing or tickling him is cute. There is this desire from Gonron to help and protect, perhaps because he earnestly believes in Oma and the promise he was presented with. Maybe it's also someone who is innately kind, just looking after something that needs help. Gonron not distinguishing between human or Drakark, and instead by the character of each individual, could be an interesting thing the series could explore in the future. Oma is also representative of hope as well, hope for a future where humanity is free, and what better way to illustrate a promise of potential than an egg? Something will hatch out of it eventually, though will it be hope or will it be something else? This is the thing that intrigues me the most about the series, as Oma has been helpful thus far, but there's something sinister to him. He is of course a Drakark, like the ones who have enslaved humankind, though seems adamant he can help. The language he uses in this context is interesting though, as it's as if he views Gonron as a subject. There's little hints that humanity might get a better deal out of helping Oma, but their freedom isn't necessarily guaranteed. A time will come when all mankind welcome my rule. I will be pleased to have such a strong and determined people as my subjects. Is this him being haughty in a playful way, or is there genuinely going to be something more to Gonron Egg? At the very least, the level of unease and distrust I have, contrasted with the more endearing bond between these two characters, is a fun clash to behold week by week. Gonron's overly idealistic persona that feels slightly off itself could also be a setup for some edgy development in the future. It also could be nothing of the sort, and what we're building to is more of a standard fantasy adventure story though, and all the egg stuff is my imagination just running wild. Despite my praises, I do think the series has stumbled a bit here and there. One major aspect is in how it's showcased humanity's oppression. We don't get to see much of it aside from characters being enslaved and beaten, which is bad, but the weight of the Drakark's rule isn't as strong as the characters would leave you to believe. If it were built up more and we were made to care about humanity and its fate, then Gonron and Oma's adventure to save everyone would hit a lot harder. There's still plenty of time to build up to this though. There are a few other things Gonron has set up in advance too, which I'm excited to see it reach. The antagonist already has a name, Agito. Oma has mentioned another ally, perhaps they are another Drakark or another human. There is a character on the first chapter's colour spread we have yet to meet too. Gonron also has a sister somewhere in the world he wants to find as well, so even 3 to 4 chapters in, there's a decent chunk we know about the world and pieces that can be manoeuvred to make the story more than Gonron just hunting down Drakarks. Chapter 3 also put more focus on the world itself, Gonron's growing strength through eating Drakark hearts, another aspect that makes the Oma is a weird freaky egg idea stand out. But also this chapter focused on some human survivors too, and the perception of Drakarks by humans, showing that Gonron and Oma's goal will be hard to achieve since it might not be only Drakarks they'll have to fight against. Its world is exciting. Contrary to what a lot of people are saying online, I feel like there's something here amongst the rubble. It has an older charm, which for me reminds me of some of my favourite video games like Drakengard or Nier. It's odd, there's a vacuum of hope, decay everywhere, with a mix of fantasy and religious aesthetic. If any other Jump manga are similar, I'd point to Iron Knight and Blue Dragon Ralgrad. Both series I like because they're quick, simple, have great aesthetics, although both were cancelled and definitely didn't hit with everyone. They were so long ago though that it does make Gonron stand out as something a bit different at this time. I don't think this is the most innovative manga by any means though. Nothing actually insane has happened yet, so I understand if people are lukewarm or this just hasn't clicked with them at all. But in the current context of Jump, I think it's pretty unique. It's not an exorcist battle shonen set in current day, nor is it tinged in a real-world mythology like Ultra of the Flame, for example. It has this post-apocalypse angle, potentially elements of horror or darkness could come from it too. That being said, if you line up all the battle series that are in the magazine right now and acknowledge we have a fair few adventure titles already, things might get dicey for it, but of course that's not the be-all end-all of things. Potentially I can see Gonron's Egg in a similar light to Kyoshi or Ota, that this is something that would be a hit with younger audiences, the people who actually buy the magazine outright and who send in a lot of the surveys, so I don't think this is quite as instantly dead as some people might lead you to believe. It has a coolness factor to it in its designs and a world that is appealing, and provided it can keep twisting and turning its story to grip readers, I can imagine it being a fun series to follow week by week, which is the most important thing of all. Upon further minor research, Tanizaki has actually done a lot more one-shots than I first realized. These have been interspersed from 2011 up until present day, so he's been active for a good long while. The colour for his newest one-shot actually, Shujin Neo Kaseari, looks really sick in particular. He's a very strong illustrator. Our second newest manga is The Mage Next Door, or Tonari no Osagawa. This is by another newcomer, Hideaki Nabe, who has put out an insane number of one-shots since 2020. We have no Kashishi, Slayer, and Gekiken no Shumito, which all seem to be action-focused series, but come 2022, the very manga we're covering today has its roots in the 2022 Gold Future Cup. The GFC being a competition that has happened most years since 2004, seeing new artists participate in order to get serialized within the magazine. I have talked about it multiple times before and even made a video on it a few years ago, though it's a bit outdated. This GFC in particular is shaping up to be quite the legendary one, giving us works from Mama Yu Yu author Yoshihiko Hayashi, Star of Beethoven author Morohiro Hayashi, and the fabled Koi no Yobi no Sasaki-san is here too, which won the entire thing, but we're still yet to see it or its author debut anything in Jump. The original one-shot seems to be a bit more free-flowing, with Osagawa and another character lazing about, but ultimately helping the owners of a robbed store, which is quite similar to the chapter we'll dive into in a sec. The focus on rural Japan, long flat roads, mountains, and power lines gives it a nice relaxing vibe that's complemented by a few slice-of-life scenes, so perhaps this is what we can expect more of from the future of this series, and is honestly what I came to love most about the initial chapters. I really just want to see more of this cozy, kind of realistic Japan being portrayed. The countryside more than the city. There's something very special and homely about it all. Before The Mage Next Door would start, however, we would get a boatload more one-shots in the in-between years. Furosuki Kirin, Lost Boy, Yohei no Hen, and Takerai no Gekoso, with that one debuting this year even. I have also covered Yohei no Hen in a past one-shot video, so I have some experience with Nabe's works. I would say their strong suit is definitely melding everyday slice-of-life situations into different narratives. They have a playful, low-key vibe which I've enjoyed from everything I've read from them, though their art can be a bit messy and I don't think their action stands out particularly well. I think it's a good choice then to return to Osagawa, where the main focus seems to be on the slice-of-life intersection with magic. There's a touch of action, but predominantly it's just about a lazy mage goofing off and sometimes looking cool. Unlike the one-shot, the series shows a lot more background on the magical world, and I think it might characterize Osagawa better as a chill guy. He's simultaneously viewed as a prodigy, but also lazy. He has mastered and creates many spells, but often they're just mundane, like the muscle soreness healing spell. Freerun would probably get along with him swimmingly. I really like his philosophy too, that everyday life is important, a lot more than fighting, since that's what you usually have to bear with for most of your time. He frames this selfishly as wanting to create a pampered life where all his needs are met, but you come to see that there's a more altruistic side to him, which I think comes about fairly naturally. I don't think anything from the first 3 chapters was laugh out loud funny, but I do like its setting and find it entertaining, especially with how nonchalant the main character is. Him just lying down in the road is quite endearing. His honesty about being a mage is too. So far, how he's dealt with problems is a tad disappointing though. He's meant to have all these weird magics, which he could use to strategically take out foes, though he's pretty much just used water magic as his clincher a few times in a row now. Couple that with him being paired with the sidekick who just uses summoning magic, and gradually the core that attracted me is becoming further and further off, with the series feeling a bit more battle adjacent. So with those elements not clicking with me and me not finding its comedy all that funny, I'm having trouble really clicking with this one. Overall, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I didn't find myself too bored at all. The next few chapters will really test if it's for me though, since I feel it needs a bit more heart, or to be funnier with its comedy bits, maybe introducing more characters for Asagawa to bounce off of, or just something else. I don't think I'd mind it sticking all that much though, as its sleepy vibe is nice, but I do think it might clash with a series like Witch Watch. Similar subject matter, a focus on magic, it juggles multiple genres a bit too. This doesn't have to be an instant no-no though, multiple things like this can exist. I do find that Asagawa just isn't very new. It doesn't excite me very much as a concept, potentially because we've had so many witchy or magic focused manga recently. I've seen how magic can lead to comedic developments, I've seen how magic can be used in cool ways through battle. Asagawa just doesn't have anything special in my eyes right now, but I look forward to it trying to change my mind with more chapters. A small update for Asagawa, or the Mage Next Door, it has recently added some new characters, just like I said might benefit it, but in all honesty I don't think it changed much, and if anything, I feel like they're very by the books, and the water gun is continuing to be used as the main finisher, which is a tad disappointing. Still, let's see how this develops, although I'm slightly less excited for future chapters. Hero Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits, or JK Yusha to Inkyo Mao, is our third and final new manga of 2025, which for a while was rumored to be an isekai series, though that doesn't seem to be the case at all, which goes to show that you should be careful what rumors you hear about Jump manga and don't discount a series on these rumors. I saw more than a few people here and there disappointed or even unwilling to engage in this series, even though they hadn't even read chapter 1. Moving on, this is a series created by Matsuri Hatsubina, another newcomer, and they seem to have been quite active since 2023, with the one-shot Sekai Heiwa no Tame ni Yusha to Mao wo Kute Kumasu being published in Jump Giga about a hero and demon lord coming together romantically, effectively being a precursor to the new manga in Jump. More romance manga would follow with Curtain no Muko Kimi no Koe, set in a more contemporary school infirmary setting, and then we'd get Mahou Shoujo Gekkojo Joto, an action comedy magical girl one-shot. Post these one-shots, the Hero Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits one-shot would debut in early 2025, being quite popular apparently, which is backed up by the fact that it debuted as a series less than a year later. Matsuri Hatsubina's track record so far has been excellent. They haven't been around for very long, but have put out many one-shots. They've iterated on a few ideas, and their art improvement is stellar, going from some quite flat but charming illustrations to the art style they have now, which is incredibly bubbly, attractive, and full of detail. On the subject of art style, unfortunately for me, that's probably my favorite aspect. It's cute and pretty, the expressions the characters make are funny, probably more so than Asagawa's. The core premise for this is pretty simple too, being a hero and demon lord stopping to fight because they're tired of it. The demon lord just wants to relax, to engage in human customs, and it's not like conquering the world is something he has to do immediately anyway. For a fun fact, this manga is kind of close to an older Jump comedy manga called Hell Warrior Mao, which sees the demon lord quit demon lording for a while to instead lift up the human race so they're more worthy of conquering. The setups might be different, but the general ideas and jokes they both make are slightly similar, which is neat as they're 30 years removed. Though I don't love every aspect, I do like some parts of Hero Girl and Demon Lord. The Demon Lord overall, his deadpan expressions, lax attitude, and him just wanting to chill is nice. My main problems with the work, or at least its initial chapter, is that it's a bit all over the place. A lot happens just in chapter 1, we bounce from a fight to chilling in the apartment to school, a character introduction, an immediate character betrayal and fight with aliens, then the Demon Lord has time stop powers. It's a lot for an initial chapter, and I think its stronger qualities get lost in a mess of everything. It's trying to do too much at once, when really all I want to see and all I think we should see is the hero and Demon Lord's initial transition to this new cozy lifestyle. The alien stuff is super overkill, and if this is a pattern for future chapters, I might not enjoy it as much. It's a shame since the end of the chapter is genuinely quite nice, with the Demon Lord asking what the hero wants for dinner that night. I understand having a crazy zany contrast to this, but in this case it really fell flat for me and didn't click. Fortunately, this is just the initial chapter. The next was a bit slower and is delivering on more of what I expected. This improvement already has me like it a bit more, showing it is gradually working on and refining itself. Things can change. It could keep slowing down or even turn me around on some of its more bombastic, silly ideas. I'm open to giving it a shot, which is true of every single manga here, which I'm discussing today. There are some more things I do want to comment on about Hero Girl and Demon Lord. Firstly is its usage of tropes and its tone. Initially I felt this might be very different to the usual things Jump serializes, and while I think that's partially the case, it does have a Jump quality to it a bit. This is a super nebulous thing, by the way, but sometimes I will look at works and assess how they feel within the magazine since I've read quite a lot of Jump manga. There is a bit of modernness to the series that I think would feel more at home elsewhere, like Shonen Sunday or something. Jump doesn't much juggle the hero Demon Lord idea. It has now and again, like I mentioned in Hell Warrior Mao or heck even the Dragon Quest manga, but I feel that's pretty far removed from how manga tackle it these days. That could also just be me unfamiliar with the trope's roots too. Mama Yu Yu is an example of a more modern series that visits this idea, so it's not like Jump can't have a series like this, but I do want to convey that Hero Girl Demon Lord being here feels very different, which isn't a bad thing at all. In fact, it's probably quite good that Jump has something that feels so different from everything else. It just adds more variety to the magazine. Another aspect about the series that might go unnoticed or even unexplored is the protagonist being a magical girl effectively. She transforms and looks like one, and it would make sense considering the author has a past magical girl one-shot. This is Mao Shoujo, a joke that I don't know if people will get, but I think is pretty clever. I deserve a pat on the back for it. This is totally a series that right now I'm not the hottest on, but I can see myself growing to love if it keeps doing what it's doing and throws a few curveballs. The third chapter of Hero Girl and Demon Lord was actually really funny, and I think I'm turning around on it a lot more. It's thriving when it focuses on the interpersonal elements between the two main characters and the jokes that spawn from that, and I think it's using RPG tropes for comedic fuel well too. It goes to show that it's sometimes good to let things cook a bit as initial chapters come out because your perception could turn around 180 like it's done for me here. Now that we've run through the 3 new series, let's talk about the magazine, how we interact with it, and how we interact with these new series. I think it's expected to an extent that I go through these works and evaluate whether or not they'll stay or whether or not they'll be a hit or cancelled. I have alluded to this while talking about them so far. I might have mentioned a similar series to them which may impact their rate of success or failure, quote unquote. This is an aspect of Jump I've struggled to discuss over time, and for those who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a culture surrounding the magazine that's largely speculative. Due to Weekly Shonen Jump's high turnaround of new manga, it has to cancel and start new series frequently. We usually get at least 10 new series a year, and you're lucky if even half of those make it out of the year, never mind lasting a full year themselves. This opens a whole can of worms about how the magazine is structured and the nature of cancellations, but I'm going to ignore most of it for now, so we can just talk about how we talk about these works instead of us talking about the evils of weekly serialization. That's a separate video and topic that would frankly destroy my soul to talk about. Talking generally here though, I doubt all 3 of these series I brought up will have long, fruitful runs. It's possible for sure, but unlikely. Manga in Jump gets cancelled. For now, this is just how things are. So then what do we do with this information, or speculation, is what I want to touch on. For a long while, this has bred an environment where everyone is clamoring to guess which series will survive and be the new big thing and which one will meet an untimely end, to the point where people will read the first chapter or even the first few pages of a manga and completely write it off as cancelled then and there. Removing yourself from the context of the magazine, this sounds utterly insane, but I understand where it comes from. We have over 50 years of Jump cancelling things. It's hard-coded into what the magazine is. This practice helped it cycle through series so it could maintain a roster of high-quality titles that would propel it to the top. This is of course sad for those whose stories are cut short, and for as much as I hate the idea that the magazine is a machine designed to pump out hit manga to just print money, a part of me knows there's more to it than that. I know every single manga in Shonen Jump has its author pour their heart into every single page, whether it was a success or not. I want to try to discuss what's next, not with authority, but convey that what I'm going to say is bolstered by my experience reading Jump manga and spending a long time talking and thinking about it. This to you might mean nothing, but to others who have watched my videos a lot or who know me personally, they will know just how much the magazine matters to me and my strong connection to it. So it may come as a surprise to say I don't really enjoy a lot of discussion surrounding the magazine, and this has reached a point where it's actively frustrating hearing some of the things people say about it and the manga it serializes. In a perfect world, I could just disengage and enjoy things on my own merits, and maybe I should, but I'm somewhat ingrained in Jump. I talk to a lot of people who read it, I make videos almost exclusively on it, and I'm greedy. I, in my own small way, kind of want to change things. At first, I think I was going to use this video as an excuse to vent or be angry, but instead I want to appeal to anyone who is still listening to at least show you how I view Jump and want to talk about it. Through reading the majority of translated Jump manga, even though most don't last long and meet abrupt ends, there's often a ton of value and fun to be had reading them. Just because something got cut doesn't make it any less worth reading. So looping to my issues, often due to this speculative discourse surrounding new series, people may read chapter 1, think it's not good or lacks something or other, and write it off as something to be cancelled. There are all sorts of people who will read things differently, and I can't tell you how to read or not read something, but I do think reading Jump manga to check if they tick these nebulous boxes only to label them as something cancelled is sad. This won't be the case for everyone, but many people will equate cancellation with something being bad or not worth reading. And then there will be some people who will not read these works just due to the very idea that something might be cancelled. It genuinely saddens me when I get comments or people tell me they don't want to read something because it could just be cancelled one day. I get that you don't want to waste your time, but what if the cancelled manga is enjoyable? What if you click with it despite it eventually ending? Everything has to end sometime, and sometimes those endings come prematurely, but it doesn't make the journey that built up to them any less. For an extreme example, I could die tomorrow, and does that make my life building up to this point worthless? Maybe if you're a pessimist, you'll say yes, but I know countless people who would disagree. A less dramatic way to explain how I feel might be to point out my X-Files series, where I've covered cancelled manga for the last 2 years, and gradually I've noticed a lot of changes, and in particular, they're tied to why the videos have grown bigger and bigger. I have changed. The manga I've read have changed me over time, and I've gotten a lot kinder to them. In a lot of cases, I can see or feel what an author might be trying to convey, and for the past 3 big X-Files on Mama Yu Yu, Ayashimon, and Green Green Greens, all 3 have touched me in some pretty profound ways. In the case of Green Green Greens specifically, its cancellation makes it infinitely more interesting and hard-hitting. I'd recommend watching that video if you're curious why, but it tackles the subject of failure very well. It would then be a shame then if a lot of people just sweep series like this under the rug. Some do, some don't, some always will, but there might be some people I can sway. I can at least make you try to think a bit more about these series and how you talk about them around and with others. Sometimes I worry with my videos that I'm not using analytics enough. I'm not bringing up the data people might want to see. Table of contents. For every X-Files or history video, I could cite these willy-nilly. I could bring up sales numbers to show something didn't do well. But for me, these are boring and often reductive ways to talk about and approach a series. My insecurities are kind of on full display here, I think. I always say that I want to make videos for me, and largely that is true, but I also want to interact with others too, in regards to the magazine. There is sometimes a pressure to talk about Jump in a certain way, but the more I do make these videos, the more I just kind of want to branch out. Sometimes I'll get frustrated with people who talk about the table of contents or sales too much, but in reality, a lot of that might be me frustrated with myself and my inability to decide with how I want to view and talk about Jump. There's a messy tangle in my head of all of these things regarding the magazine, it being this corporate entity, but also one powered by countless amazing artists. You have all of these great stories coming out which touch you deeply, and then they just end because something new has to come because a number isn't high enough. But there's so many different numbers and variables we're just not privy to, which we probably don't need to be privy to. It's kind of confusing, it's hard to talk about. This is a subject I've thought about over and over since making the channel. There's a lot of just hard things to talk about in regards to Shonen Jump. It's a complex beast. After much pondering though, I want to put a focus on some less definable aspects, I think, as I talk about Shonen Jump and manga overall. Sentimentality, how a work makes me think or feel, analysis of what it might be trying to say, it as a living, breathing work of art. At my core, I'm not about numbers, there's no cold hard calculations, but I think I just want to convey a care and softness for the works I adore, and even for some I don't. This doesn't mean I won't criticize things, but I think I've noticed I'm much more lenient than others in regards to a lot of manga. At the end of the day, it's tough to get past the idea that someone else made this piece of art I love so much, even if it's something that kind of sucks in some ways. I've gone a bit off track here, maybe. What does this have to do exactly with the 3 new manga in Jump right now? In short, I think we should be kinda more lenient and put a focus on enjoying or trying to find something in a work of art. We won't love everything, it is not our duty to love everything, but I think loving more things, more than hating or being neutral, would be good. My point ultimately is to give things a shot. All 3 manga we've talked about today, Gonron Egg, Osegawa, and Hero Girl and Demon Lord, you should read chapter 1 if you haven't already. See if they are for you. Chances are all 3 will not be for you, and that's totally fine. In no way do I want to force people to read things they don't want to read. But I do want you to try to engage with them. Don't let numbers or thoughts of others' views on Manga Plus, the Japanese reception, or the idea that they might be cancelled stop you from connecting to a piece of art. With weekly manga especially, the possibility for dramatic change week to week is there as well. I've disliked manga only to come around to them chapters later. I've enjoyed a work only for that enjoyment to slip over time. This is just how things play out sometimes, but from my perspective, reading every Jump manga as they come out chapter by chapter, no matter if they get cancelled or not, is an exceptionally rich experience. My relationship with the magazine and the people who discuss it has evolved over time, but I've come to realize that I don't want to be an armchair analyst. I don't want to approach manga like it's the stock exchange. I'm here to talk about art and the stories people make. All artists want to convey various things, messages, feelings, their love over particular topics. They might just want to make something fun in their own way to make you smile. You might not click with any of that, which is fine, but I do feel you have to meet them halfway. You have to be open to new things and to be open to engage with the work. Talking about where it fits in Jump through table of contents or how its sales are can follow, but I think it's important to try to communicate with the work itself first, which is something that takes a little while too. A single chapter or even 3 I feel isn't enough to throw a damning judgment on a series. Saying it'll for sure get cancelled doesn't benefit anyone, it just feeds into speculation, upsets people, and makes some less likely to read the series to begin with. Again, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the statistical side of things, but keep in mind that someone out there made these works to connect with you. And that's everything I have to say really. I hope it isn't too rambly and is understandable. I don't want this to come off as me policing how people enjoy what they enjoy, but I also want to communicate how I feel about Jump and how it's talked about online. This is also an evolving and ever-changing set of feelings, so I'm open to further discussion or ideas. Just be polite about it in the comments. More so though, I'd encourage people to share how they feel about the 3 new manga. Which ones do you enjoy? Why? Which ones do you not enjoy? Why? Do you think Uma in Gonron's Egg is super suspicious? Does the comedy in Osagawa click with you? What spells would you like to see? What do you think about Jump embracing heroes and demon lords? I look forward to some pleasant comments down in the comment section. In the meantime, please check out the other videos on the channel. I have plenty on Shonen Jump's cancelled manga like I mentioned earlier, and I'd recommend the most recent ones on Mama Yuyu, Ayashimon, and Green Green Greens. If older Jump manga is more your thing though, I also have a series of videos running through Shonen Jump's history, running through its very beginning in 1968, all the way to 1997 currently, where One Piece has just debuted. So if you'd like to see what the magazine was like when One Piece had just begun, that video was pretty cool, I think. Also, as a clarification, this video was meant to be 3 separate little Patreon videos. I usually make small, less edited first thought videos on every new manga in Shonen Jump, but in the process of making the Gonron's Egg video, I got really sick and the other manga ended up coming out, so here's one big special video for everyone. If you like what I make and want to hear me talk about new Jump manga, definitely head on over to the Patreon, where I yap about them a bit more. At the $1 tier and every other tier, you'll get access to every single Patreon video I've ever made. The only difference between tiers is at the $3 or higher tier, you'll also get a bonus little doodle drawn by me, which is shown off in the credits of all of my videos. Thank you. Trinity, Jade, Kazuka Gairu, Soroko Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Faco, Yellowtail, Lay Slogget, Chris P. Bacon, Johenshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yuzakura Psycho, Wurzel, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vina Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Jopa Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Fenrir Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nielsen, Electro Pirate, Jay Vasso, 3 Frogs in a Trench Coat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Gidista, TG Talks Manga, Wavy Sky, John Jerry 722, Andrew, Zenomat, Miskell, Tara Elizabeth, Stratomega 13, Dennis Tambek, Jubei, Lise, Frog Dude, Hilltop, Vaco Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadpan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Prosione, Vaz, Palette, Ruiner, Juice, Kurumi Nox, Eric Gorski, Miss the Shira, Gris Exploder, Dextora, Enya Showo, Cheese, Emmy, Benjamin, Tenmaku Lover, Taifumi Studios, and Ignate. Thank you all so much for being patrons. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind and take care.